Hello and welcome to Spicy Reacts. We got a video here that we're going to react to, Sunny V2. How one bad episode ruined a podcaster's entire life. And hate themselves, yeah.
It was the 84th episode of the H3 podcast. Host Ethan
Oh, he's
Klein
talking about
chose to interview
H3.
his favorite comedian Bill Burr.
And I was such a big fan of Bill Burr, obviously, who isn't? He's a legend.
But after 54 minutes of talking,
I don't know too much about H3, but
Ethan's
I've heard he's not really a nice guy. He's a bit bitter.
life had been altered permanently.
That's when I started taking antidepressants after that episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, you'll need to remember a specific date, the 12th of September 2018. It was not only the day when the episode was first posted, but it was also a day when viewers were already annoyed at Ethan for something he'd done prior. You see, just 5 days beforehand on
This
the
was a
7th
fair
of
while back.
September, Ethan used his H3H3 Productions main channel to advertise a
Ball
game
Rider. Pause. Pause.
It was especially annoying since they hadn't uploaded anything else over the previous 3 months. We waited 3 months for a 2.5-minute ad. I can't skip the ad for some reason. So disappointing that we wait for 3 months and this is a standalone video. This is something that belongs tagged at the end of a good old H3H3 vid, with the backlash prompting Ethan to respond via Twitter. This therefore established that in the same week as interviewing Bill Burr, Ethan was not only increasingly prone to criticism, but his confidence had also been crushed.
There was a lot going on in my head.
Which was certainly awful timing, as Ethan was set to face his toughest guest so far.
Yeah, I want to know how does these guys get this information from 2018? Like, how do they dig up all this stuff from so long ago? Insane. They're like private investigators.
Bill Burr had been running his own Monday morning podcast since May of 2007, meaning he had 11 years of podcasting experience compared to Ethan's year and a half. Ethan skipped all the side quests and went straight for the boss. Ethan was therefore extremely nervous from the moment the episode started.
I am so neurotic. I am nervous. I'm nervous right now.
Okay.
Very nervous.
I don't think
But
that's gonna help.
how do you, was there ever, no, trust me, I'm on edge.
Only made worse given Ethan and his wife were both massive fans of Bill Burr's show.
Like, we were listening to his podcast every day during that time.
Ethan therefore also began the episode with a compliment, although there was a reason this made Bill somewhat uncomfortable. In a Hollywood Reporter interview, it was stated, even a compliment can potentially rub Burr the wrong way. As Bill explained, if someone was really nice, I would just be like, get away from me. If someone was an asshole, it's like, oh, that seems familiar. For whatever reason, I don't like being complimented, which killed the episode.
That's fair
from the
enough.
second the
People
podcast
don't like being
started.
commented.
Ethan came into this interview too
Complimented.
much as a fan, as a listener of Bill's podcast, and Bill came into this podcast with an attitude of, I don't know who you are, I don't give a shit.
As mentioned, it quickly became obvious that Bill didn't want to be there, which, as highlighted by Red Bar, is the perfect mixture for a terrible show.
Bill Burr seems to be in a nasty little mood, and that could ruin the whole interview. Look at him. Look how miserable he is.
Whether or
Yeah,
not
he
Bill
doesn't
was
look
in a
happy.
bad mood would be up for debate later. Although as the interview continued, something became obvious. Bill Burr wasn't going to blindly agree with everything Ethan said, and would always give his honest opinion, even if it hindered the course of the episode.
He's not being a good interviewee. You can be gracious and maybe the question's not perfect, but you can, accommodate it with like a good answer and bring it back to a good place. He doesn't like to do that at all.
Ethan got his first taste of this when suggesting the following point.
Bully's almost important in a way, isn't it? Like, you gotta allow kids to give each other shit.
I don't think as a parent you ever allow it.
Sure.
Although it became more obvious 10 minutes later when the two started talking about the dog whisperer.
Does he even know anything? I also wonder, does he just pretend like he knows?
Well, I think the guy knows what he's doing.
Okay,
At this point.
all right.
I mean, he got a TV
Fair enough.
show. You're a really cynical guy, man.
I
And
thought thought you were down. I thought you were going to be down.
That is a lot for me to say that.
I
Like,
thought
you're
you were
like
going to
out
be down, but
cynical and
apparently
mean.
I'm cynical even to Bill Burr.
Given the podcast was being streamed in real time, viewers gave their live reactions in a Reddit thread reading, "Am I the only one who's finding this podcast super awkward?
Yeah.
What is wrong with Ethan? He's not laughing at any of Bill's jokes, and it's like he's lost all conversational skills."
It's a very
Comment
awkward one,
reading,
for
"Yeah,
sure.
There's no chemistry between
Yeah.
Bill and Ethan." However,
probably what it
things
is.
only got worse from here, as after 54
What happened?
minutes of talking, the following exchange occurred.
It seems like you're in love with your daughter, hearing you talk about her on the podcast.
Jesus Christ. Well, you're pretty perceptive. You think you care about your own
I
child.
listen, more than that, okay? Because again, you're this character. You gush over your daughter.
Ethan's wife saying
Did that gush
fight.
over you?
My dad actually at work did. And,
Is
he also has
laughing?
7 kids, so I mean, yeah.
Really? How many siblings do you have?
I don't know, dude. The internet's too fucking weird to give out all that information.
Oh, you don't even want to say how
really?
many because you're afraid that it will
yeah,
somehow
by all means,
compromise your
keep talking
privacy.
about it. Is there any way you can cut this out? I'm honest, dude. Like,
Seriously?
Yeah, no, dude. Yeah, there's fucking lunatics out there.
Okay.
Well,
It's true.
Off the air, I'll tell you.
all right.
Yeah, Bill's the bald guy. Bald guy.
I love how surprised he is. Jeez.
Well,
there's
you can
actually-
mention the
There's
amount.
absolutely crazy people out
Okay,
there.
yeah. No. All right. I don't know why that got so flat.
With Bill being direct and private, and Ethan
How is
being
that not
curious
funny?
and open, the conversation failed to flow for a pretty obvious reason.
You could not have picked two totally different people to get together and have an interview.
This could be observed when Ethan doubled down on the compliments.
The greatest Bill Burr.
Oh,
I do mean that, by the way. I know it makes you uncomfortable.
It
but
does.
Although there was one final question that put the podcast in a casket. 12 years beforehand in 2006, Bill Burr had performed a stand-up set in Philadelphia where he basically roasted
So
the
Bill's a
audience to their face, and in response
comedian.
he was booed by everyone. The set has since been considered legendary given Bill would even go there. However, when Ethan brought it up on their episode, Bill Burr wasn't looking to talk about it.
it was when you were getting booed by thousands
God,
of people
I was
in
hoping
Philly.
you were. I was like, when you said my favorite
don't-
YouTube video, I was like, oh God, not the Philly thing again. Now I hate you.
Oh no.
I love. What can I do? I
Absolutely.
love that.
I'm joking. I'm fucking with you. Go ahead, let's do it.
But do you?
what was
But,
that?
Wait, Bill looks so bored of this. He's like this. Whatever, go ahead. He looks so bored.
I'm not gonna ask you. You've talked about this a lot. I didn't
Yes.
realize.
No, but go ahead. Let's.
Yeah, this guy is actually funny.
I like
You can tell he's a comedian.
Skip it.
I like making you uncomfortable.
Well, what
do
am I
this
supposed
thing.
to? Well, what am I?
doing this.
Yeah, right.
You
Yeah.
know, you could.
And now, what do you want me to be? Well, what was going through your head, Bill, when you're getting booed by all those people?
I don't know.
Yet the two completed the episode by insisting
Doesn't seem that
things
bad.
had gone
They just bit of
well.
I
banter.
almost made it through without making an ass of myself. I got so close.
What are you talking about? I had a great time.
I did too. I really did.
I hope you did. I'm worried about you.
I
You-
did.
Thank God you got.
I'm playing it
Wait.
up. I'm playing it up.
The audience reaction, however, couldn't have been more negative. Longtime H3H3 fan, but I'm really struggling staying with the podcast. We all knew that Ethan wasn't a great podcast partner / interviewer, but today it's just horrible. Bill's realness really contrasts Ethan's wacky performance, which is furthered by a meme reading who would win. Stand-up comedian, actor, voice artist, writer, musician, producer and social critic, industry veteran at 25 plus years, or a comedian who dresses up in costumes and says the memes. In a different post, you / SkyKid200 highlighted, "You know you messed up when you make Bill Burr cringe," and in the one and only post questioning, "Am I the only one around here who didn't think the interview with Bill Burr was bad?" the top comment simply stated yes. On the video itself, KG stated, "This just made me like Bill more than I already did," although there were others who thought Bill was the one who messed up the interview.
What I would say to Bill Burr is get a grip. There's going to be 1 million people watching this. If you don't want to do it, don't come. Don't be a crank. There's no room for cranks in these interviews.
The unpopular opinion was that Bill Burr was
That's
the
a fair
douche,
good
as
take.
he was purposely trying to be superior to Ethan the entire time. And the sibling shit, that was a dumbass overreaction by Bill. I know how many siblings Bill Burr has. Let's use this info to find him somehow. Bill came off as that baby boomer kind of guy who doesn't quite get what you are saying, and to compensate tries to make you feel uncomfortable. This was also argued by another user who wrote, "I'm curious curious, if I know the amount
Reddit,
of siblings
bro.
of a person, what would that kind of
All comes from
information
Reddit.
benefit me, even if I was someone who would have vicious thoughts in their head? Ridiculously overreacted, although
Yeah,
as
I'd
was
say
highlighted
he
in the
overreacted a little bit.
comments, Bill certainly has the right to his own privacy. Who was at fault wasn't important anyway. All that mattered
No.
was the interview went so poorly, Ethan cancelled all of his following podcast guests
I was canceling episodes after that.
and instead hosted 7 weeks worth of episodes with just him and his wife, one of which addressing how the show had become hated.
It feels like nobody likes this podcast and everybody wants it to go away, but somebody likes it. I mean, people watch it, right? I mean,
There's a few out there.
this person likes it.
This was addressed in detail only 2 videos later, in which Ethan didn't reference the Bill Burr episode, but explained that something had derailed his life.
About 2-3 months ago is when I kind of hit rock bottom, and I was just so miserable that I was so tired. I didn't no longer want to be myself.
As a result of this unspecified event, Ethan had begun using antidepressants,
So I had this bottle of antidepressants in my bedside, and I said, after dealing with this and hitting rock bottom, I started taking it.
which was the only alternative to ditching the podcast completely.
I have thought about quitting the podcast, honestly.
A lot.
Yeah. Because it's been such a pain. It's been so painful at times.
Ethan instead doubled down on the broadcasting by discussing his Bill Burr experience with the most unlikely of people, Theo Von. You see, Theo had his own disaster podcast with Bill, where Bill also acted harshly towards Theo for asking fairly innocent questions.
Do you keep a weapon on yours or no?
On what?
In your, I don't know if you have a helicopter, if you rent a
Do I
helicopter.
really have to answer that? He knows goddamn well I don't have a weapon. Why are you doing this?
You don't? You wouldn't have a gun? I don't think that's obtuse really to think you might have a weapon in there with you. Think about it.
Yeah, think about it.
Okay, all right.
You think about it.
All right.
Yeah, no.
Okay, fine.
Theo and Ethan therefore met to discuss what had happened, where Ethan confirmed his rock bottom moment was because of the Bill Burr episode.
I went into therapy after that episode. I'm not
Did you
even
really?
I'm not even being kidding. I mean, I was having a depressive episode for a long time,
Right.
and I had these antidepressants next to my bed. And after that episode with Bill Burr, I came home, and that's when I started taking antidepressants, and I went to therapy.
Wow.
It was soul crushing.
Ethan then explained why the interview was so tough for him.
When he sees an opening, he attacks.
Yeah.
He is unlike anyone else I've ever interviewed because he's not willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. He will expose any chinks in your armor.
And that the hardest part to deal with was how the audience reacted.
It didn't feel that bad, but it was the reaction, the audience reaction to it afterward.
However, for those revisiting the original podcast, Ethan
Yeah, it
admitted
doesn't
to
seem that
therapy
bad.
opened a brand new
Everyone's
point of
reacting to it.
criticism. H3 just said bullying is important. That's rich considering he needed therapy and antidepressants after a simple conversation with Bill Burr. It's ironic that Ethan said sometimes kids need to be bullied when he later cried about how hard the Bill Burr interview was. The fact that he went into therapy after this interview is crazy lol, although Ethan was preparing for a shot at redemption. Exactly 1 year after the first Bill Burr interview, Ethan made a post on Instagram reading, "It was an honor to be fat shamed today by the great Bill Burr," confirming the two had done another interview. Surprisingly, it was Bill Burr who suggested the redo.
And then Bill
Really?
reached out to us to come back on a second time. He reached out to us. And the second one, everyone thought went great. They said it was the redemption episode.
Ethan therefore reframed the first interview as a positive learning experience.
From that episode, though, I've had a lot of growth. I don't take it back. The Bill Burr thing.
You don't take the Bill Burr thing back.
No.
Especially given how it changed his
Makes you grow.
life.
Taking antidepressants, going to therapy was like the best choice I ever made for me and my family and professionally too. I mean, it's made everything better.
It was the
Yeah, that stuff will make you grow as a person, and you better to take it head on. Yeah, shout out to Sunny V2 for putting that video together. That was a good video. Give it a like, give it a comment,